This is a red alert warning, a siren blaring from the very heart of American retail, and it's telling us that the impact could be felt not months from now, not even weeks from now, but potentially in as little as 2 weeks. This isn't coming from a pundit or a talking head. This is coming straight from Walmart. Yes, that Walmart. The colossus of retail, the company that built its empire on the promise of low prices, the place where millions of Americans do the bulk of their shopping. When Walmart starts sounding the alarm, you don't just listen, you brace yourself. And what they're saying is chillingly simple. Prices on some items are going to go up, and they're finding it increasingly difficult, maybe even impossible to stop it from happening. But here's the truly alarming part, the part that should make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. The reason isn't the usual suspects. It's not a sudden, overwhelming surge in demand that's outstripping supply. It's not another wave of shipping container bottlenecks or port congestion, though those problems certainly haven't vanished entirely. No, this time the culprit is something far more deliberate, a direct consequence of government policy, a new, aggressive wave of tariffs that have been slapped back onto imported goods under the current administration. Think of it like this. Imagine a hidden tax collector suddenly appearing at the docks, demanding a significant percentage of the value of every shipment coming into the country. That's essentially what a tariff is, a tax on imported goods. And these new tariffs aren't hitting obscure luxury items that most of us never buy. Oh no, they're targeting the everyday essentials, the things you rely on without even thinking about it. We're talking about the fresh produce that keeps your family healthy, the coffee that gets you going in the morning, the toys that keep your kids happy, even the flowers that brighten your home. They're all potentially on the chopping block, facing price hikes because of decisions made far away from the checkout aisle. And Walmart, the undisputed heavyweight champion of keeping costs down, is looking at this situation and saying, "We're struggling." They're admitting that it's getting harder, their word, to maintain those low prices without being forced to pass some of these new, unavoidable costs directly onto you. If the world's largest retailer, a company with unparalleled negotiating power and logistical expertise, is saying they can't absorb these costs anymore, what does that tell you about the scale of the problem? It tells you this isn't a minor hiccup, it's a major shockwave hitting the supply chain, and the tremors are heading straight for your wallet. So, if you shop at Walmart, which statistically speaking, you probably do, or honestly, if you shop anywhere that sells goods that come from other countries, which is, let's be real, pretty much everywhere, this isn't a theoretical economic discussion for some distant future. This is something that could, and likely will, affect you sooner rather than later. It's a direct threat to your purchasing power, a potential squeeze on your household budget that arrives not through some invisible force like inflation, but through a very visible, very deliberate tax. And the impact, according to Walmart's own subtle warnings, could show up right where you'll feel it most acutely, at the cash register. Now you might be thinking, wait, I thought we dealt with tariffs a few years ago. And you'd be right. This isn't the first time we've seen this play out. The current administration reintroduced a series of these import taxes earlier this year, with the stated goals of boosting American manufacturing and reducing our reliance on foreign suppliers. Some of these tariffs were indeed rolled out during the president's first term, but they've returned, and in many ways they've come back with a vengeance, hitting a broader range of goods and with a speed that is catching even the most prepared companies off guard. During that previous peak, we saw some truly eye-watering tariff rates, jumping as high as a staggering 145% on certain goods, particularly those from China. That wasn't just a tax, that was a near-title blockade for some products, causing significant disruption and uncertainty. After some predictable backlash and economic pain, those rates were scaled back. But don't for a second think they disappear entirely. They're still lurking, and for many products, the tariffs are sitting at around 30%. 30%! Imagine adding a 30% tax to the cost of production or import for a company. That's a massive burden, a huge hurdle to clear before an item even makes it to the store shelf. And it's not just China feeling the heat this time. Countries like Costa Rica, Peru, and Colombia are also facing a flat 10% tariff on certain exports. Why does that matter? Because these are countries that supply us with things like fresh fruits, vegetables, and coffee, items that are not luxuries but staples for many families. So when these tariffs go up, the companies that import these products, or even just the raw materials and parts needed to manufacture goods here, suddenly face significantly higher costs. It's like the cost of doing business just got a massive, unexpected surcharge. And for companies like Walmart, which operate on razor-thin profit margins, absorbing those costs is incredibly difficult. Think of Walmart's business model. They make a tiny profit on each individual item sold, relying on massive volume to make their money. They are built for efficiency, for squeezing every last cent out of the supply chain to deliver low prices. When a huge, unavoidable tax is suddenly introduced at the import stage, it disrupts that delicate balance. Their CEO, Doug McMillon, has been remarkably candid, stating that while they are absolutely trying to keep prices low, they simply can't absorb the full cost of these tariffs on their own. That's not just corporate speak, that's a direct admission of the immense pressure they are under. We're already seeing the early warning signs, the small cracks appearing before the dam potentially breaks. Take bananas, for instance, a seemingly insignificant item, a low-cost staple in most households. The price per pound has already ticked up from around 50 to 54 cents. Doesn't sound like much, does it? But that's an 8% increase on a basic food item. It's a tangible example of these tariffs starting to bite, a small-scale preview of what could become a much broader, much more painful trend across a wider range of products. It's the canary in the coal mine, and it's telling us that bigger price hikes are likely on the horizon. But bananas are just the beginning of the pain. Get ready, because the list of products facing these new, government-imposed taxes hits hard at the things you rely on every single day and the things that make life a little brighter. Let's talk about fresh produce. This isn't just about bananas. Think about those vibrant avocados you use for guacamole or healthy toast. Many come from countries now facing tariffs, or berries, grapes, even certain vegetables depending on the season and origin. These aren't just snacks, they're essential parts of a healthy diet for millions of families. When the price of fresh produce jumps, it forces impossible choices, especially for low-income households. Do you buy fewer fruits and vegetables, compromising nutrition? Or do you cut back elsewhere, maybe on other groceries or even necessities? This isn't just about a few extra dollars, it's about the accessibility of healthy food. And these tariffs are putting it further out of reach. Moving beyond the kitchen, consider flowers. A simple bouquet of roses to celebrate an anniversary, a bunch of tulips to brighten a gloomy day, or even just a small potted plant to add some life to your home. Many of these beautiful, mood-lifting items are imported, and they're now facing new taxes. Flowers aren't strictly necessary for survival, but they contribute to our well-being, our celebrations, and our connection with others. When the cost of these small luxuries skyrockets, they become unaffordable for many, stripping away simple joys and expressions of affection from everyday life. It's not just about a higher price tag, it's about losing access to something that brings beauty and comfort. Now, let's talk about coffee. For countless people, that first cup of coffee isn't just a beverage, it's a ritual, a necessity to start the day, a moment of peace before the chaos begins. Much of the coffee we consume is imported from countries like Colombia, which is now facing a 10% tariff. That tax is going to translate directly into higher prices for your morning brew. Imagine your daily essentials suddenly costing significantly more. For those on a tight budget, that could mean cutting back, switching to cheaper, less enjoyable alternatives, or even giving up that small, important comfort altogether. It's a direct hit to a daily routine that many rely on. And what about the kids? Toys are also on the list of tariff-impacted goods. The action figures, the dolls, the building blocks, the games that fuel imagination and keep children entertained. Many of these are manufactured overseas. When tariffs are applied, the cost of bringing these toys into the country increases dramatically. This means birthday presents become more expensive, holiday shopping becomes a greater financial burden, and simple treats become harder to justify. For parents already struggling, this makes it harder to provide those moments of joy and play that are so crucial for childhood development. It's not just about plastic and batteries. It's about the ability to bring happiness to children's lives. Finally, let's look at electronics. Our lives are increasingly dependent on electronic devices. Smartphones, laptops, televisions, gaming consoles, even basic household appliances have electronic components. Many of the parts and even finished products are imported. These tariffs mean that repairing a broken phone might cost more. Upgrading a computer becomes a bigger financial hurdle, and replacing a necessary appliance feels like a major blow to the budget. In a world where digital access is increasingly essential for work, education, and staying connected, making electronics more expensive creates a new barrier, potentially widening the digital divide and making it harder for people to participate fully in modern life. It's not just about gadgets, it's about access to essential tools and technology. Even though a significant portion of what Walmart sells, about 2/3, is made, grown, or assembled right here in the United States, that still leaves a massive 1/3 that isn't. They source a huge volume of goods from countries like China, Vietnam, Mexico, and Canada. So, while the stated goal of these tariffs might be to bolster domestic production, the reality is that a substantial chunk of the products filling Walmart's shelves and your shopping cart are tied to global trade and are therefore directly impacted by these new taxes. It's like trying to build a wall around a house that still has multiple open windows and doors. The elements are still going to get in. What makes this situation particularly challenging, and what Walmart's CFO John David Rainey highlighted as a major headache, is the sheer speed at which these tariffs were implemented. This wasn't a slow, phased-in approach with years of warning. It was fast. Rainey described it as one of the fastest and most unpredictable cost shifts they have ever had to deal with. Imagine trying to manage the logistics, pricing, and inventory for a company the size of Walmart, an operation that involves millions of products and a global network of suppliers, when a massive, unpredictable cost is suddenly dropped on key items with little warning. It's like trying to plan a complex military operation when the battlefield is constantly and rapidly changing. This unpredictability makes it incredibly difficult for Walmart to plan, to negotiate with suppliers, and ultimately to maintain stable prices for consumers. So how is Walmart trying to navigate this turbulent economic sea? They're employing a range of strategies, some of which sound more like desperate attempts to mitigate damage than proactive business decisions. In some cases, they are simply cutting back on orders for products that are heavily impacted by these tariffs. Think about the implications of that. Fewer of certain items being imported, potentially leading to reduced availability and, yes, even empty shelves for specific products. It's a direct consequence of the increased cost, making those items less profitable or even unprofitable to bring into the country. They're also working with suppliers to try and change materials or packaging to avoid the tariffs. One example mentioned was switching from aluminum to fiberglass in certain products. While this might help bypass a specific tariff, what does it mean for the quality, durability, or even safety of the product? Are we going to start seeing subtle, potentially negative changes in the goods we buy as companies are forced to make compromises to avoid these taxes? Is a real concern. Another tactic, one that consumers are all too familiar with, is shrinking product sizes while keeping the price the same. It's a form of hidden price increase, a way for companies to pass on rising costs without overtly changing the sticker price. You get less product for your money, a direct hit to your purchasing power. It's shrinkflation, and it's a clear sign that companies are under immense pressure to maintain profitability in the face of rising expenses like tariffs. And in a truly unsettling sign of the uncertainty, some suppliers are reportedly delaying shipments, essentially playing a waiting game, hoping that the tariff situation might change or be renegotiated if they hold off long enough. Imagine the chaos this introduces into the supply chain. Delays, unpredictability, potential shortages. It's a high-stakes gamble, and the consumer is the one who ultimately pays the price, either through higher costs or reduced availability. The entire situation is incredibly fluid, incredibly uncertain. Walmart executives are admitting they can't forecast with any real certainty right now. When the company that arguably has the most detailed insight into consumer spending and supply chains in the world says they can't predict what's coming, that should be a wake-up call for all of us. Now here's the part that might seem confusing, the twist in this already alarming narrative. Despite all this talk of rising costs, unpredictability, and potential shortages, Walmart is still growing. Their sales in U.S. stores are up, and their online sales just had their first profitable quarter ever, showing significant growth. How is this possible in the face of such economic headwinds? It points to a deeper, more concerning trend in the broader economy. During times of economic uncertainty, when inflation is already eroding purchasing power and people are feeling squeezed, where do they turn? They turn to retailers known for value. They trade down. If prices are going up everywhere, but they're going up slightly less at Walmart than at other stores, suddenly Walmart becomes the more attractive option for budget-conscious shoppers. Walmart's growth in this environment isn't necessarily a sign of a booming economy. It's a sign that people are struggling elsewhere and are being forced to prioritize value, even if that value is slightly less than it used to be. They are benefiting from a shift in consumer behavior driven by financial anxiety and the need to stretch already strained budgets. It's growth born out of necessity, not prosperity. But even with this growth, Walmart is signaling caution. The fact that they didn't issue a profit forecast for the next quarter is a significant indicator of their uncertainty. Companies of Walmart's size typically provide detailed financial projections. Their reluctance to do so now speaks volumes about how unpredictable they view the current economic landscape. Particularly with these tariffs in play, they simply don't know how these costs will ultimately impact their bottom line. And that uncertainty is a direct result of the unpredictable nature of these new government-imposed taxes. What does all of this mean for you? It means you need to be prepared for higher prices. It means you need to be vigilant. If you're already feeling the pinch of inflation, this new wave of tariff-driven cost increases is likely to make things even tighter. Those small price bumps, the 4 cents on bananas, the potential increases on coffee, electronics, and other essentials, they add up quickly and significantly, especially for families trying to make ends meet or individuals on fixed incomes. It's a direct hit to your purchasing power, making it harder to afford the things you need and want. So what can you do in the face of this looming threat? First and foremost, become an informed and vigilant shopper. Pay close attention to the prices of the items you buy regularly. If you see the price of a staple item starting to creep up and your budget allows, consider stocking up a little before the next increase hits. It's a defensive strategy, a way to mitigate some of the impact of these rising costs. Don't be afraid to explore alternatives, even though, we are sorry to say, that more of your favorite stores are buckling under the tariff threat, just like these in the next video.